Alexander Calder is one of the most important 20th century American artists. His output is amazing. It's like Matisse or Picasso. But he took two-dimensional abstraction and made it three-dimensional and made it move. And that was taking it off the canvas and putting it into space was an extraordinary thing. I mean, it's amazing. Today we take it for granted, you know, every crib has some rip-off of Calder and, you know, that kind of thing, but it was brand new when he did it. When we did the most recent Calder exhibition, which we consider more or less for us a permanent installation, we assessed what would be the best space. And for Calder, this new installation, for example, the first thing we decided we want was obviously a tall space for all of the mobiles, but we also wanted a space with natural light. And we have 3 spaces in the East Building galleries that have natural light. We decided on what we call Tower 2, which is about a 2,500 square foot exhibition space. And what we didn't want was one immediate reaction, one large warehouse space where people come in and take it all in at once, just boom. Although historic photographs of his studio showed that kind of installation, that's not the kind of discovery that we wanted. In that room, there are pieces that are probably 18 feet tall, and there are pieces that fit into an old cigar box which are no higher than about 1.5 inches. And that disparity of scale was something that we had to take into consideration. There are some objects in there, the oil paintings, that are more light sensitive than others, so they're in more of a shaded area. To give a sense of scale to some of the smaller objects, we built niches on the north and south corners of the room. We built coves. We built a very long case to hold tiny objects. And the amount of work that we were able to finish before we actually had to hand something over to the carpenters was done through models. And I can't express enough how important model making is to what we do. It's costly and it's time consuming. Drawings are handy, of course, and that's how we initially work. But to get ideas across to some of the curators who are not so used to looking at architectural drawings, there is nothing more clear than a model. Everybody understands a model. You can get your face down inside the doorways and you can imagine the rooms, and the models are very exacting. And as some of our photographs have shown here, photographs of some of our models and photographs from the same vantage point in the actual space are hard to determine which is which. I mean, they're very, very exacting. The one thing that a model does in an exhibition like Calder, or many of the other exhibitions, is that changes are much easier to make when we're dealing with cardboard and wood, balsa wood up here, on a model scale. It's not as easy, and the carpenters aren't as happy when those same changes are made full scale. It's very expensive, so we try to avoid that kind of thing, and for the most part, we do. Once the construction of the major elements are finished from the carpenters, then the determination for paint and things like that come next. That room appears probably to you to be a white room. It is not a white room. It's different shades of gray, and we find with different values of gray that with natural light and the LEDs that we use up there, that the walls basically appear to be white. If they were white, it's sort of a blindness. There's a snow blindness that appears. So although you think you're in a white room, in fact you aren't. And it's very conducive, that gray, to the kind of rhythmic dancing shadows that, of course, moving mobiles have in different times of the day. shadows are incredibly important to Calder. And it's a funny thing, if you take, for example, Josephine Baker, it's a rather subtle wire sculpture, hanging sculpture, and she does move in her niche. She moves very slowly, particularly when the doors to the terrace are open. There's a little change in atmosphere. But you pick up the movement of her double shadow on the wall. Your eye picks it up faster than you actually pick up the movement of the wire. So your eye, for some reason, and there's somebody can explain this, your eye picks up shadow movement much more quickly than the actual object. And it's the interplay of the different shadows. The shadows are different levels of intensity on the wall depending where the light sources are coming from. There's multiple shadows, and the kind of rhythmic collision of the shadows on the wall is a very beautiful thing up there. And that, I think, is why so many people find themselves up there watching the Calder ballet for much longer than they expect.
Alexander, no one knows how the red gets on the rose. But Alexander, we imitate, recreate, and approximate. We'll take out your whistle and give it a blow. Mesdames et messieurs, let's start the show. Bent down on your creaky knees, you bring to life the flying trapeze. Alexander, life looks good in wire cloth and wood.